Welcome to Vitamin B with Mohana, where we help you take control of your well-being. My guest today is Upasana Bijoor, a wonderful person, a cancer survivor, an entrepreneur, and a nutritionist.
So, functional nutrition is understanding how.
Why are we getting sick as a society?
So, it means taking off meat, dairy in all kinds.
What is different about our Indian vegetarian food from what all we have just spoken about?
Humans are predominantly plant eaters.
Then plant forward.
You can make the most healthiest burger if you are.
So should we make choices of taking foods with high nutrient?
This mindset of portion control comes from a weight loss mindset. It's about a population study. Make a chutney out of this stone and give it to me. Eating with the right ingredients.
A lot of things in the food space are really helping most people.
Very clean, healthy food that will give your body. So veganism or being vegan talks about what you're not eating because it's quite a heavy label to carry.
The fact that if you're not well, how food is actually changing their lives. She believes in the plant forward movement and is going to share her thoughts about how deep and enriching the movement indeed has been for her life and all of us.
And when we speak of Satvik, we mean...
what I love about the Eastern ways of working.
But I understood carcinoma.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cancer.
Cancer, yeah. Sit back, enjoy and relax. Hi Upasana, it's wonderful to have you at Vitamin B today with us.
Thank you for having me here, and I'm very excited for this chat with you.
Same here. Upasana, for me, I have been following you on Instagram through Natureville. That's your entire baby that you created.
Yeah.
I think for close to 1 year, I've been following all the amazing work that you have been doing in the food space and how you're transforming life, right? One of the things that I felt is when we thought about Vitamin B, there was such a natural association between what y'all are doing, and I was like one of the first few people I should call on the show was you. So it's an absolute pleasure, and thank you for making it today as well.
Thank you so much, and all the best, and you're doing great work. So
thanks, Upasana. That's wonderful. So we are going to spend hopefully an hour talking about something very meaningful. A lot of things in the food space are really helping most people, whether it is their daily life to be more effective, gain more energy, to have better information about the food choices they're making, as well as the fact that if you're not well, how food is actually changing their lives for the better, right? And that's where you're truly transforming people. But one of the things that actually concerns me, and that's where I think we should just take it head on and really start talking about, is there are so many names, right? There are so many things that are going on. Each one is calling it a different movement. Each one is calling it a different philosophy, and people are actually overwhelmed to a large extent in terms of what is it that they should be actually adopting, what is the right approach, etc. So maybe we'll start with the fundamentals. Is that fine with you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So what resonates with me the most is a non-reductionist approach. What I love about the Eastern ways of working is that, or Eastern philosophy is, it's all integrated. So what is holistic wellness according to you?
Just exactly what you said. It's integrated.
Yeah.
It is the interconnectedness of mind, body, environment, energy, spirituality, so many things put together, and that is what makes it integrative or holistic. So you're not just looking at food on your plate or an exercise routine, certain lifestyle habits or choices. They're all connected, and together they then contribute to your well-being. Therefore, holistic well-being. So,
okay. Yeah. And how is that different from allopathy and what they call as interventionist support on medicine, right? How is that fundamentally different?
So there is a very big difference when you're looking at intervention, medical intervention, and you're looking at prevention. So how we look at it is, you go to a doctor when you already have a condition, right? When you're fine and well, no one walks up to a doctor. So something should have happened for you to visit any specialty or a doctor. Whereas when you're looking at holistic wellness, or you're looking at preventive methods, this is to prevent that from happening. So they are important, they work together, but it's important to understand that prevention is cure, right? So you want to start looking at preventive methods of just living, eating a certain way to nourish your body, or living a certain lifestyle, choosing certain lifestyle habits, choices, like an exercise routine or a dance routine, whatever it may be right for you, or whatever you connect to.
Sure.
And all of these things collectively improve your health.
Yeah.
And thereby you're preventing a lot of chronic illness. And then whenever there is need for allopathy, whenever there is need for medical intervention, with all due respect to medicine, we need to take it when you need it. For example, back in the day, I think the average lifespan in 1900, the average lifespan was only about 30 or 40.
Sure.
And this was because antibiotics were not there.
Yeah.
And only until late 1940s, we started seeing the use of antibiotics, and we started seeing how the life expectancy started increasing, and infant mortality went down, and people started living longer, right? So medicine and allopathy today is looking at symptoms. So if you come to what it actually means, is looking at a symptom-based approach. So I go to a doctor, I have a fever, he's going to give me a medicine to bring my fever down.
Sure.
Right? But why did I get a fever in the first place? Why is it happening? Why am I catching a cold or a viral every time the weather changes? Now, these are things that preventive methods, holistic wellness will look at. So you reduce the frequency, intensity of those illnesses.
So essentially, they look at root cause, understanding, which is why they take longer also, right? Yeah, and that's what I have also experienced. When you go to an Ayurvedic doctor, it doesn't instantly solve the issue. It doesn't directly actually address what you're going through, but then it looks at the core of a certain organ that's actually releasing probably a certain hormone that's not functioning correctly, and that's what has to be actually addressed.
Very nice point. You mentioned the root cause, and I like to call it as root causes, because if you look at a tree and you've seen the roots of the tree, it's not one root that's holding a big tree. It's multiple roots, right? So it's so many roots. It's always multifactorial when you're looking at chronic issues today, illnesses today. The body is connected. You know, it's a tiny body. It's all connected. One thing is connected to another. And I practice something called functional nutrition.
Right.
And that looks at the body as a whole. And we also look at the root causes of why something happens.
Okay. And that would have been my next question, naturally. I think, Upasana, you and me have talked about this before, that for me personally, I love actually taking better care of myself. I think it's a continuous process. You will never get there, on any given day. It's work in progress, right? But there are these so many different names. I came up with just 3 or 4, okay? And maybe what will help our listeners is to understand really what it is.
Okay.
Is there really a difference, or is it all the same, called differently, right? So the first one is vegan. The second one is Satvik. The third one is plant forward, and I learned that from you. And the last one that comes to my mind is functional nutrition. Can you help us understand things one by one? So we'll start with vegan.
Absolutely. So vegan is an ideology. It's a lifestyle, and part of that lifestyle is food. So if you're looking only in terms of diet, because everything else we've spoken, but overall, in terms of diet, they're all principles, different dietary principles. So veganism, or being vegan, talks about what you're not eating. It talks about eliminating animal products completely from your lifestyle, from your plate and your lifestyle. So it means taking off meat, dairy in all kinds, whether it's ghee or paneer, buttermilk, it's taking it all out. Even things like honey.
Oh, okay.
Because it comes from an animal, right? So that's what veganism is. It is not consuming any animal products. And most of the time, this is done for a couple of reasons. The top reason is ethical. So most people choose veganism because they are animal enthusiasts. They just have this empathetic nature where they don't want to hurt another animal. They don't want, right? So they don't want to consume anything from an animal. So this is vegan. But also vegan gets into a lifestyle, which means people don't wear silk and don't carry leather
I didn't know this.
Yeah. So
Okay.
vegan is actually a lifestyle. It's an ideology. You're talking about what are you as a person, what are you following? This is how is your life now that you have chosen this empathetic, ethical path, which is eliminating all animal products from your lifestyle.
Okay.
So that's one bit. And I think the next one you said was Satvik.
Yeah.
Now, Satvik comes from this ancient Ayurvedic principle, right? And when we speak of Satvik, we mean the goodness, sattva, purity, freshness, emphasizing on clean, nourishing, poshak, very clean, healthy food that will give your body the best nutrients, and and it's also based on a lot of your doshas, and so that on the to try to balance those imbalances in our body. And if you just look at the journey of Ayurveda, it's just so beautiful, and I think we're so lucky to be from that land.
Definitely.
So you just look at how it started, 3,000, 5,000 years, between 3 to 5,000 years ago. And then there was that era, BC, then it moved on to medieval times. Then it went on to, it kept changing, different scholars added to it. And kept enhancing it. It was just a matter of some herbs and some home sort of remedies that we follow. But that's now become so rich because of doctors, scholars kind of giving in their input and the government recognizing it. And setting up institutions to study Ayurvedic medicine and practice it. I think that's a very, very powerful one for us. And that's moved on, then the colonial times. So then British came in, and that kind of changed, brought in a lot of Western medicine in.
True.
Then how Ayurveda changed with pharmacology. Right? That happened. So again, Ayurveda is, or let's say Satvik lifestyle or Satvik food has a lot to do with eating pure, clean, fresh plant, dairy. There's a lot of contradicting, it's quite contradictory right now when you talk about dairy. Probably the modern Ayurvedic enthusiasts do not speak about certain things that the ancient ones did. Of course, times have changed, which is why maybe. Also, Satvik would be not tamasic and not rajasic. Tamasic means producing lethargy. Foods that will produce lethargy. What are the foods that will produce lethargy? You eat old food, stale food, animal products, things like that, where when you eat it, how do you feel when you eat a big biryani? You just want to lie down, right? So that could be called as tamasic. Then you have rajasic, which is promoting disease.
Okay.
So Satvik is not that. Satvik is promoting health.
Okay.
Right? So that's one aspect.
Okay.
Then we spoke about...
Then plant forward.
Plant forward. I absolutely love that term.
Okay.
And it's because it's about what you are eating. You're talking about, I'm eating predominantly plant-based diet.
Okay.
With no sort of restriction or label.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
I don't want to be called a vegan because it's quite a heavy label to carry. It's also, oh my God, I mean, what if I get so tempted to try that one thing? Right? So it's not as restrictive as vegan, but it also means I am actually talking about what I eat. I eat fruits, plant forward, right? What comes under plant food?
So
fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lentils, legumes, nuts, seeds, greens, beans. You put all of these together and this is plant-based food. But I'm also not thinking from a mindset of lack, or I'm thinking about what I eat mostly.
Interesting.
Right. So I think plant forward really isn't restrictive. It's very abundant mindset. We're talking about most of the times, whether for me it may be 5 days a week, for someone else it may be all meals in a week except one. They might try something that may be their family favorite, or or it's Diwali, so I want to have a sweet that may have. So
when I was researching a little bit about it to just get a cursory understanding, it was represented with a inverted pyramid.
Yes.
And it allows dairy, it allows meat, and basically it's not vegan, right?
Correct.
It's got plant in it, but it's not vegan.
Yeah, it's not as when you compare the two directly. Veganism strictly talks about what you don't eat.
Yeah.
Plant forward talks about what you actually eat.
Yeah.
And it talks about plants. You're eating plants, because vegan diet can be unhealthy too. You can eat chips and fried food, and it's vegan. And
Yeah.
one of my nutrition instructors used to say a very funny phrase. He used to say, you can live on beer and chips and call yourself a vegan.
Which is true.
And that doesn't put you as it's not healthy in any way. But plant forward is actually emphasizing on the fact that you are eating plants.
Okay.
And you may choose to eat animal products, but that's minimal.
Okay.
So that's really
that clarifies a lot. Yeah. And the last is functional nutrition.
So functional nutrition is understanding how food converts into nutrients.
Okay.
And these nutrients are the basic raw material of how your body functions.
So should we make choices of taking foods with high nutrient?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Nutrient dense is the word we all need to speak a lot more about as a society. How nutrient dense is your diet? That's a good question to ask ourselves. How can I make this plate more nutrient dense?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, I put in a little vegetables or a salad or something, becomes more nutrient dense. Right? So that's one aspect. But functional nutrition is using nutrition to improve the functions of your body. Using food to improve the functions of your body. For example, anyone's ill or sick or has a chronic illness, we can use nutrient dense foods to specifically get better with that condition.
Wow.
So food medicine.
Yeah, I think I feel like I've learned a lot. Thank you so much for actually having the patience to walk us through so many details, right? But it's really helpful as well. And I think a bit of everything is actually very useful in its own sense, right? So plants and vegetables, and I would purely call it a Satvik kind of food, is like the underlying factor that connects all 3 or 4 things that we talked about. India has so many vegetarians.
Yes.
And Indians have had veg food all along. When you go abroad, I remember when I lived in Germany, they would ask me things like, I never knew you can have a complete meal, a main course which was vegetarian. It's that alien to many societies, right? Germany is just called as an example. So what is different about our Indian vegetarian food from what all we have just spoken about?
Interesting point. Firstly, if you just look at the last 100 years, disease rates in India were pretty low compared to the Western world. And that itself shows how our diet was, right? So things like colon cancer, things like that are not big at all in India because of our very minimal consumption of meat per se, right? It used to meat eaters also eat meat only once a week. You know how it was, that Sunday meal, right?
Yeah, absolutely get it. Yeah.
You know how it was? It's not like you compare it to the Western world. You have a plate and a quarter of your plate will be meat in every meal.
Yeah.
So our Indian culture is just beautiful. And if we just look at that and try to get inspiration from that, more than half our job is done. But I do want to emphasize in a certain thing where I think where we are kind of going wrong, or why now India is being called diabetes capital of the world, cancer capital of the world. Why are these things happening if we have this beautiful tradition? I think one is westernization, all these brands coming in, fast food brands coming in. Then there's just so many more obvious reasons, like ordering from outside. These are all common and obvious, but I do want to bring up one point: home food. What do you think home food was 10 years, 20 years, 30 years ago and now? I think there's a huge difference in that, right? Because I think now home food is about taste and convenience.
Sure.
It's about, for most people, home food can also be a Swiggy, Zomato order delivery. And that also is not wrong if you learn how to pick your choices correctly. I know people eating at home who are eating a nutrient deficient diet and getting sick. And I know people who work hard, order from outside, but make beautiful choices while ordering from outside. and eating more nutrient dense foods while ordering
Yeah.
from outside. And so I think this concept of home food is
Yeah.
something we need to define again. Because what is home food? If you look at traditional Indian food, roti, sabzi, dal, chawal, South India, idli, dosa, sambar, palya, right? This is what our food is.
Right.
But if you just visualize your plate,
Yeah.
what do you see? What is home food? Forefront of our plate is grain. And so today, Indians are consuming an extremely ridiculous amount of refined carbohydrates
Yeah.
and saturated fats. So that's a huge problem.
Sure.
In refined carbohydrates, we have white rice,
Yeah.
wheat products which are refined, and when you get your attas and all today, there's not maida added to it, and that's how it is. So it's refined, and they're all mass produced. Of course, this lot of it's not as authentic as
It's heavily processed. You would
heavy
say.
processed, and it's not as nutrient dense as some ancient grains. Like millet is back.
Yes.
We are celebrating millet
Yeah.
now. Everyone is, which is a great thing.
Yes.
So moving to that, so there are some changes we can make to our day-to-day life.
Yeah.
We're already there as Indians, and I think if we just make those little changes, you're in a great place. So I'd just like to finish that by speaking about home food.
Yeah.
We need to redefine it. If that plate is full of refined carbohydrates from grain, and if we're eating refined grains 3 times a day.
Yeah.
I mean, I come from south of India, so day starts with idli and dosa.
Yeah.
And then I'm eating a big mountain of rice for lunch. And then, you want to go out for dinner or whatever. So you eat a big mountain of rice again for dinner, some roti. Where's the nutrition? The vegetable is overcooked. There is no concept of raw foods, color. Where is like the rainbow on our plate? Right. So all that is missing.
Yeah.
And if we just bring that in, then I think we're heading towards a better place.
So that's very beautifully said, right? That what was there before is unfortunately sort of, it has gone away to a large extent. But it's also coming back, right? A lot of people are getting conscious, and we are still talking about it to raise awareness, right? But let's just talk a little more about something you touched upon, right?
Yeah.
Why are we getting sick as a society? What's going on around us, right? Is westernization the only thing? Let's just have a broad conversation on that.
Yeah. This is a long one, but so why are we getting sicker?
That's true. Yeah.
Going back to the point, people lived only up to 30 and 40 100 years ago. 1900, life expectancy, life span of human beings was between 30 to 40. And why was that? Because infant mortality was high. There was no modern medicine. There was no all of that. So people never got a chance to get sick. Right? That's the first, most logical point. Sure. People just didn't get that chance to get sick. Now, infant mortality is not as big a problem as it used to be. Medicine has advanced. So we're living longer.
Sure.
But we're living in that phase where we're taking support from medicine for a very long period of time. That's one thing that's happening right now, I think.
So we're sicker, and therefore we need medicine.
So that's one. Westernization is one more thing, where we started eating for convenience and taste.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Food is not anymore about, I will eat this salad, and I will eat a mixed vegetable sabji today, or I'll eat karela, and I'll eat like all these, because it gives me nutrition. If you just look at the youth of India, are we talking like, hey, this food gives me nutrition, so I eat? How many people are doing that?
Yeah.
Are we talking about, hey, this is quick? If I'm, let's say, a young family, right? We have small kids and a young couple. What is the thought process in their mind? Quickly, how can I go to work?
Yeah.
And back in the day, women didn't go to work.
True.
They had the time to nourish the family, take care of the family. Now, as a woman, we work, we have to take care of the kids at home, and we need to get the maids or the house help to cook food for our family.
Yeah.
So these are also small things that we need to address.
Yeah.
And a day-to-day life, every 24-hour cycle in a household, just think about what is the conversation about food? Let's just order from outside tonight, right? Let's unpick that. So convenience. The first thing that happened to us is convenience. The second is taste.
Sure.
20 years ago, 30 years ago, kids between the ages of 5, 6, and 7 ate a pizza once in 6 months. You know, my first pizza was when I was some 14 or 15 years old.
Yeah.
I think a kid's first pizza, and I'm not that old. So I think, so if you just look at how time very quickly everything has changed.
Has changed.
Like it's interesting to observe that. So we are eating for taste, we're eating for convenience. One more reason why we're getting sicker. And then if we're just looking at the population, what was the population in 1900? It was 1.9 billion. What are we right now? 8 billion people. So we have to understand with that growth in population, how sickness rates. And I think the most pressing issue is lack of knowledge, lack of empowerment, where I strongly believe nutrition has to become a very important subject in schools. I mean, I think about
and
that.
we don't learn it.
Correct.
This is a very good point. Actually, we don't have the awareness right from the start.
Mental health, nutrition. These are things that need to be discussed in school. And kids have to be taught about how nutrition impacts us. How stress management techniques. Right? We pass out of IITs and IIMs, but no one's teaching us how to manage stress at that point. And when you're stressed, what do you go to? Either you go to food, or you go to substance, or you do, activities that are harming your health. So again, before we didn't have this level of stress. Now all the American companies come here and we work for these amazing companies, and our economy is growing, and how wonderful, right? We're doing so well, but at what cost?
True.
They are sleeping in the night, but we are working at their time for their companies. And then you work at night, you sleep during the day. The circadian rhythm is tossed. How many women just living in Bangalore, as an IT hub, how many people are working night shifts and doing this, right? So those are also factors, economy is growing, that contribute. And then when your focus becomes so much, or startup world, aren't we in a startup world? What is the only thing? You're, I guess, in a similar situation. So tell me, what is the life of a startup?
It's working all the time.
Exactly.
It's true. It's very true. And I have personally been guilty of skipping a lot of my lunches.
Exactly.
And it's not pleasant all the time. Right?
Exactly.
But tell me, Upasana, because of all of this, right? What are some of the top diseases that are emerging now, as we can notice all around us, and who has them? Is it the younger people, older people? What's going on around us?
Very, very good question. Important for us to know what kind of problems can happen to us and to develop a mindset of preventing it instead of developing a mindset of it won't happen to me. That's I'm glad you're asking this, because the top diseases in the world today, the first number one disease is cardiovascular disease, heart disease. Every 36 seconds, there is a person dying of heart disease in the world. Dying.
Okay.
As we complete this sentence, someone just lost their life because of it. That's how scary the matter is. The next is cancer. It's become so prevalent. Everyone, you look at breast cancer, 1 in 8 women have breast cancer. And that's just one. But now so many types of cancer. So these are all been there for a while. Diabetes. India is the diabetes capital of the world, recently been labeled cancer capital of the world. Things we're not proud of.
Absolutely.
But it's there and it's happening, and it's really growing at such a rampant rate. And I feel at some point we need to stop and question why. Why is it happening? And change that trajectory of thinking. We can't keep doing what we've been doing and expect it to change. Something has to change at a fundamental level, right? So that's very important. So then you have your top 3 is heart disease, and under heart disease comes a lot of things: hypertension, heart attacks, cardiac arrest, that is sudden heart attack. You have angina, you have high blood pressure. We spoke strokes again coming. That's also from heart issues. So many things that can come from that. Diabetes, cancer, and the latest something that I'm seeing quite a bit of is autoimmune conditions.
Because of stress, I think, and a whole host of reasons.
A whole
We
host
talk
of reasons,
about
a
that, yeah.
whole big host of reasons. And that's the point, we are unable to justify because of what. And I'll reconnect to the point of root causes.
Sure.
I feel like that root causes have to be mentioned every time we talk about why something happens.
Yeah.
We have normalized disease. To be very honest, it freaks me out. Really does. Because, I have a lot of consultations. I meet a lot of people. And, I see high cholesterol, again, that comes under heart disease. Obesity.
Right.
We see autoimmune conditions, which is the body is attacking itself. What's an autoimmune condition? Body is attacking itself, thinking it's a foreign object.
Yeah.
That's really scary, right? If your body only doesn't recognize its own cell and thinks it's a foreign object and tries to destroy it and kill it and creates antibodies to kill it. And another very big one is gut health. I think gut issues. We have normalized this. When we talk to people, I notice people saying, I have just a little bit of gas, just a little bit of bloating. How is your family history? We always take a very detailed health history, right? When we speak about functional nutrition, very detailed health history of how, from the time you were a child till now, how your health has been and how your mind frame has been, what kind of experiences have you had. We go pretty detailed because it's all holistic wellness is about everything, not just food, and not just about your current symptom. So when we look at that, we see people, the tone in which our people are speaking right now is normalizing all these conditions.
And it's being normalized because they believe they'll get better easily. Is it because there's medicine? Like what could be the psychology behind that?
When it's happening around you all the time, it's normal. Because if everyone in your family has diabetes, if everyone has a certain issue, anywhere you go and you speak about, let's say, gut issues, and everyone says, I have this, it's common. So does it mean it's okay?
So is that why people may not also take better care?
Yeah.
Okay.
We could be. Don't know. Could also be the other way around because, my entire family has these issues. I'm going to be extra precautious.
Sure.
Could also be that.
Sure.
And we want to encourage that. Right? But I feel like people tend to normalize it because it's a language that's being used. And my point here is, please don't normalize these diseases. Don't think that just because your family or rather blame the genes. There's this beautiful saying, and I think many people have heard it as well, but I'd like to reiterate and say it. It's Caldwell Esselstyn. He's a plant-based doctor who's written this beautiful book called Reversing Heart Disease. And he says, genetics only loads the gun. It's the lifestyle that pulls the trigger.
That's beautiful.
It is.
Yeah. And I just talking about what you just mentioned, right? I have friends, when I ask them, why is it that you actually don't lose weight? They get comfortable with the weight. They say that. They say, no, it's beyond a point when I don't see immediate results. And that's the other issue about instantaneous economy, right? We want everything fast. But actually, if you want to sustain something, even to stay thin, if you are thin, it takes a lot of work, right? And that's why I started the whole conversation saying it's work in progress all the time.
Absolutely. On the topic of weight, weight loss is a side effect of health gain. As a functional nutritionist or nutrition counselor, I do not work with weight loss cases.
We're going to talk about that later.
Yeah.
And I really want to sort of get into why and why not and things like that, right? So let's talk about that, because that was something I was going to be curious about. Perhaps mostly people don't adopt this kind of diet, like plant-based diet, vegan diet, because it's not very tasty, right? It's not the most like you said earlier. People actually got carried away into a certain kind of lifestyle because it was tasty. You went with taste as being one of the reasons why you got unwell, right? Or you got sick as a society. Similarly, how do we make whole plant-based foods tasty? What are if you were to tell our listeners one or two tips?
Yeah, I would. Any food becomes tasty when it's high fat, high sugar. Anything high fat and high sugar and salt. So these three things, Manufacturers know this. Restaurants know this. That's why the restaurant food is so addictive. You want to eat that again and again, right? So you do the same thing with whole food plant-based, with plant foods, high fat, high sugar, and decent amount of salt. Now, what kind of fats? Nuts, seeds, coconut, avocado. Nice, really yummy, good for you.
Okay.
Healthy fats.
Okay.
What is high fat? High sugar.
Yeah.
Put in a little. Have you ever understood or seen anyone can relate to your mothers or grandmothers putting a pinch of sugar into the curry when they put tomatoes?
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Especially in the south, it's a little sweeter. Yeah.
Everywhere. I think Bengalis also do quite a bit of that, putting a little sugar.
Sure.
Or even everyone, you say Rajasthanis, Gujaratis, right? They put a little. What is our sugar what is the most natural sugar?
Jaggery.
Dates, raisins, jaggery. Very nice mention of jaggery. Now, when you're looking at foods and you want to be healthier, one very good example of you asked me about taste, but I also want to emphasize on how to use the right ingredients to improve the taste.
Okay, sure.
You look at how nature made something and how much man has interfered with it. So jaggery as a food, nature gave us sugar cane. How much sugar cane can you eat?
Sure.
How much coconut can you eat?
Yeah.
I mean, I love coconuts. I'm from Bangalore and we eat a lot of, but I can't. If you give me half a coconut, I might just nibble. Without tools, I won't be able to eat it at all.
Yeah.
With tools, I might cut and eat half of it. That's it. But nature made the food like that. So nature has put high fat and high sugar foods in places where actually human beings can't consume a lot of it.
Maybe you're not supposed to consume a lot.
Exactly. We're not supposed to consume. All nuts come in shells. Now, my favorite nut is pista, but if you give me the shell pista, forget it. I'm not going to eat more than 4 or 5. Because who's going to sit and open those shells and eat it? You give me some nice toasted almonds or whatever, you can keep eating a lot.
Yeah.
So nature is intelligent and brilliant. And instead of overthinking how to do it right, cut yourself some slack. Don't stress yourself about how to do things right.
Yeah.
Think about what nature has given you and how much human beings have processed.
Yeah.
And the lesser processed food you consume, the better for you. Okay. Now, jaggery is better than sugar, but dates is better than jaggery.
Interesting.
Right? So you have to look at it like that.
Sure.
Because what is jaggery? It's just sugarcane juice. So you use tools. You took only the sugar out. What is oils?
It's an extraction of
only the fat. Right? So dishes that have a lot of sugar, a lot of fat, oil, they will always be tastier.
Yeah.
And an interesting thing about taste is every 28 days, your taste buds change.
Okay.
So if I take it as a 28-day challenge, I think that's a great tip for anyone. Just start off as a 28-day challenge. Eat whole and plant-based. Eat whole and plant-based as much as you can.
Sure.
Which means you're eating how nature gave it to you. Now there's a very interesting thing. If nature gave you sugar cane, that doesn't mean you literally go eating sugar cane.
Yeah.
What other kinds of sweet foods are there? And you change the form of it. I take dates, I soak them and make a paste out of it and then use it in making a kheer, for example. I love sweets. So I use some ragi sevaiya and toast it and I make some cashew milk or almond milk at home.
Okay.
But I don't strain out the fiber. I try to keep the fiber in it and make a milk or a coconut milk.
Yeah.
And put in some date paste and a kheer is ready.
Interesting.
I have a very interesting mindset when we're trying to get healthier. Don't demonize foods. Burger is not unhealthy. You can have the most healthiest burger on earth. Let's not talk about foods and say that a burger, a pizza, or a laddu, or I don't know, a pasta
but
is
limit
unhealthy.
The portions of it.
You can make the most healthiest burger if you are eating with the right ingredients. Your nature only will tell you when to stop.
Yeah.
This mindset of portion control comes from a weight loss mindset.
Right.
In the 1990s, there was a big fad on how to lose weight quickly. And people spoke a lot about weight loss. And in that weight loss, we spoke a lot about, portion control. Portion control tells you can eat anything you want, but eat less.
Yes.
What I'm saying is eat how much ever you want, but eat the right thing.
Eat right, yeah. True.
So if my
Yeah.
burger bread is made with avocado or lettuce, or or I'm using a sourdough that I've made with, or you get easily nowadays, you get millet sourdoughs and you get breads that have single ingredients. You become an informed consumer.
Yeah.
And you buy the right ingredients. And I make a lovely lentil and potato and sweet potato patty. Same thing I would have had as a sabzi.
Yeah.
But I made a patty out of it. And I use minimal oil. I don't use oil at all. And I, use an oven or a tawa and roast it and put lots of vegetables. And I make a mayonnaise with cashew.
Yeah.
I can eat how many burgers of those I want.
So to summarize, what we're saying is that less processed, go
Yes.
to the natural form of the food itself.
Yes.
Use high fat, use high sugar, but
the
the
right
natural,
kind.
the right kind. Eat a lot, but eat right with the right ingredients, which are mostly in the natural form. Yeah, great. So I want to ask you an important question. Can you tell us one or two food combinations that don't work? So what comes to my mind is when, of course, I'm a meat eater, but when you eat meat, they tell you not to have raita with it. It doesn't work. Or just don't have curd with something like, you don't make a drink with curd and lime, for example, right? It just doesn't work for you. So are there one or two things which are very important for our listeners to understand?
Yeah. Very good question. So food combination is not only about combining it on the plate, it's understanding your digestive system. So your digestive system is vertical. It's north to south. And this is a very fundamental functional nutrition concept. When you work on digestion, you work north to south.
Yeah.
And to get more detailed, it's mouth to all the way out.
Yeah.
So how is food getting into this system from morning till night? That's very important. So the first food combination that's very important is the first food you put in your system in the day. If it is very difficult to digest, or it requires a lot of digestive energy or fire, then the rest of your day will be very lethargic. To give you an example, the best food for your first meal of the day is fruits.
Yeah.
Greens, maybe a smoothie, a green smoothie, a lot of fruits, a sprouts chart, maybe vegetables. You can go wild and think about a lot of things there. But coming from the category of fruits, vegetables, greens,
And not eggs.
seeds,
Not.
I do not, so there is enough evidence that shows now that animal-based foods are causing chronic illness.
Sure.
So if you look at a couple of studies, okay, JAMA Internal Medicine Study in 2014, brilliant, it's a very prestigious medical paper, talks about how lower rates of cardiovascular disease, lower rates of cancer in vegans, vegetarians versus non-vegetarians.
Okay.
The best study to look at is the Adventist Health Study, which shows very specific statistics on vegans, vegetarians, lacto-ovo-vegetarians means eating dairy and eggs, and non-vegetarians. So just look at cardiovascular disease, which is the number one disease. Vegans and vegetarians have somewhere close to 24% lower risk of getting cardiovascular disease when you compare it to their vegetarian or non-vegetarian counterpart, which is very high risk, very, very high risk of getting. So I think Adventist Health Study for cardiovascular disease shows around 28% or something like that. Need to polish those numbers. But if you just look at the same study, you see obesity rates are very, very low in vegans when you compare it to. So just the statistics, this significant amount of difference when you look at these studies. So vegans and vegetarians are healthier. And vegans are healthier than vegetarians. Vegetarians are healthier than non-vegetarians in terms of getting chronic conditions.
That's helpful. And we'll come back to this question. So in the morning, you essentially take very light
food, and you don't want to consume grain-based food. This is from understanding that when you take grains, and refined grains specifically, and I am talking about our traditional food, right? Our idlis, our dosas. Now, the problem is not with idli or dosa. That's a brilliant food. Don't put the white rice in it. Replace it with a millet. Start your day with a big plate of fruit. Give it some break. Fill yourself. Let 80% of your breakfast be full of this raw food.
Got it.
And then eat one idli with some nice chutney, which is also raw.
Yeah.
Nice millet dosa,
Yeah.
uttapam. Okay, fill your taste buds. That's one food important point that start your day. But also in terms of food combining, never eat your fruits after a meal.
Never eat a fruit after a meal.
Yeah.
Okay.
After a meal.
Okay.
Never do. Why? Body digestive system is vertical.
Yeah.
So grains, dals, meat take so much time to digest. This is sitting in your stomach. It'll take 2 to 3 hours in your stomach, then goes to small intestine. Now it's all vertical.
Yeah.
Fruit will digest in 40 minutes. Now you eat a mango or a fruit after food, it sits on top right here and gets indigested or it gets fermented. That's when you start burping and having acidity and started having belching issues, a lot of other gas and bloating issues. But also gas and bloating issues come in when you put the wrong types of food in your body. For example, I'm going to give you a very nice analogy. If you take a mixer and a grinder, and in a mixer, your home mixer that you have, I give you some pebbles and stone and I tell you, hey, make a chutney out of this stone and give it to me. What's going to happen? First, you can't make the chutney, and you can't also, your mixer is going to get spoiled.
Yeah.
So understand your body.
Okay.
Humans are predominantly plant eaters.
Yeah.
We can't tolerate meat to survive.
Okay.
That's one thing. So if we are eating dairy and meat every meal all the time, you start your day with milk tea and eggs and cheese on your bread or butter on your bread and then fish for lunch, chicken for dinner. If this is how we're eating, it's putting stone into that machine. We do not have the digestive enzymes, neither do we have the stomach acids to break these foods down at such fast pace. Which means if I eat one egg today and then I eat another egg after 5 days, I've given it some time.
Yeah.
But if I'm eating it in every meal, animal products in every meal, now the digestion is blocked. Now we have, let's say, 2 mangoes.
Yeah.
It's sitting there. It's getting. Now I'll blame the mangoes for the pimples and for the heat. But actually, it's not the mango. It's what
I ate what.
When you ate and how have you been eating in the last 2, 3, 7 days, 2 weeks?
Which is why the plant-forward thinking and living will make a very big difference to people. So this has been really, really enlightening, right? And Upasana, I was thinking, should I ask you? Should I not ask you? But I think we will talk about this because you've given me the comfort that you will open up and talk about it. You actually had cancer, and I think it was breast cancer, right?
Yes.
And we'll come to the unconventional choice part as well. But tell us, what kind of cancer did you have? And you had it when you were 27, 28, right? Yeah.
Yes. So it is. I believe that this story is something that's given me the life I have right now.
Yeah.
So it is it's a beautiful story for me, and I'm happy and open to share it. So when I was a cabin crew for 14 years, I was flying with different international airlines and living in the Middle East, and thought I was living my life. But I was also very, very particular about what I ate, and I did cook a lot. Amongst my friends, I was the only one who used to cook all the time. And because of my job, we had yearly checkups. Okay. We had to go and do full body checkups to get the fit to fly certificate for our airline. Okay. Right? So great thing that they do. And I got access to the best hospitals in the world, and I could choose anywhere in the world. So I did go to one of the best hospitals and get a full body checkup done. And in that, they diagnosed, or they found a small lump in the left breast. I said, okay, what do we do? And then the doctor said we need to get a lumpectomy surgery done to get that 2 centimeter lump off.
Okay.
And next day, the result came after 2 days, and it said ductal carcinoma in stew.
Okay.
Now, I don't understand what that means, but I understood carcinoma.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cancer.
Cancer. Yeah.
So I said, what the hell? I said, okay, now what do we do? And next thing, I was in the oncologist's office, and then they told me, so ductal carcinoma in stew is nothing but the carcinoma is in the milk ducts. Not in stew means in location. Okay. Not moving outside. And to go back a little bit and explain what cancer is the uncontrollable growth of abnormal cells.
Sure.
That is the definition of cancer. Like, so you have certain cells. All our cells multiply at a certain rate. and it should happen at that rate
Yeah.
for the best functioning of your body. And then if it goes haywire, we're actually born with cancer cells.
Yeah.
All of us are born.
This is something I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Gene mutations, we're all born with cancer
Correct.
cells. Now, what defines or what feeds the growth of those cancer cells or what fights the growth of those cancer cells is your lifestyle, food,
Sure.
all those things. So this was in there, it was detected there. So it is called a stage 0 breast cancer.
Oh, okay.
Very low level.
Okay.
So then I was at ease. I didn't, when you normally hear of cancer, you hear of stage 4, what do we do next?
Right.
So I said, okay, we can figure this out. Right?
Yeah.
And my whole mood at that time was exactly like how I sound right now.
Sure.
And I am a very passionate person. I
Sure.
think a lot and I have a lot of opinions about things. So I guess that was really there in me.
Yeah.
Like, this has not got to do with family or genetics or any of that. I need to find out why this is happening.
Yeah.
That was my mission.
Okay.
I need to find out. And that's when the book China Study by Dr. Colin Campbell came into my hands. The China Study. Mind blowing is not the word.
China Study.
China Study.
The China
Study.
Okay. So what is it about?
It's about a population study on China.
Okay.
Done somewhere around 1970s, even before that. Quite some time, maybe 1940s, 50s. Took him some time to do this. He's a scientist, Dr. Colin Campbell. He's also the father of the term whole food plant-based, something that I believe in and practice. So, very interesting. Totally new to me. What were my eating habits then? I ate a lot of meat. This is
what I wanted to understand. What was your eating habit before? And after you found out you use plant-forward and plant-based life, and what shift did you make? Right? Yeah.
I was fairly healthy, but I did eat a lot of meat.
Okay.
I ate a lot of non-veg. I ate a lot of meat. Now here, we are vegetarians at home, but my dad and I like to eat meat. So we used to go outside. Oh, we'll eat meat that once a week, that Sunday. You know how that Indian way of doing meat.
Sure.
But when I moved there, it was an Arab culture, also very meat heavy, but also you're traveling to all these different places.
Yeah.
You're eating a lot more meat than normal. I was also consuming a lot of dairy. Here I would barely have any dairy, but there I started my day with a big bowl of Greek yogurt. Why? Because I'm very interested in health.
Sure.
So I started my day with a big bowl of Greek yogurt with berries, fresh berries, a lot of fruits, big salad, some, grilled chicken, a lot of salmon, a lot of meat, broccoli. That's the kind of gourmet, healthy food that I thought I was eating.
Yeah.
And my plate was full of like these colorful vegetables, and I would go crazy about like black rice and all these superfoods and make this and make that and cakes and
this is before the diagnosis. Okay.
Before.
And then what happened afterwards? What choices did you
change? So the China study taught me something that was how food is medicine. And the biggest learning was about meat and dairy for me. The biggest learning was about meat and dairy. And if you just look at the book, Colin Campbell has done this study in the 1970s.
Okay.
Where, so this doctor, he's a scientist. He grew up on a farm, dairy farm. So that's where his money comes from. That's his family business. Now, he was trying to understand disease rates and why in America people are getting sicker, why cancer and all has started in 1970. Why is all this happening? But countries, rural China, rural Africa, India, didn't have these diseases at that rate that America started getting.
Yeah.
He also started wondering why Japanese, Westerners come to Eastern population, comes to America and get sick. In Japan, they don't get sick. In China, they don't get sick.
Interesting. Yeah.
But now they've come for work and then they get sick. And within, one generation, they start getting all these diseases. This was really something that he was, questioning quite a bit. So in his population study in China, he understood what they eat. And there he understood that they eat a lot of plant foods. They eat root vegetables. They eat today modern day China is very different. We view China, I think, sadly, I visited China many times, and I must say that it's one of the best places to eat whole food plant-based.
Okay.
Because they don't have the concept of oil with vegetables. They know how to keep their vegetables crisp. They don't overcook it. There's always a variety of vegetables. If you say, I don't want meat, they'll give you all their vegetables, which is such a big variety.
Sure.
That's, you just have to understand that. And he did this experiment where he, milk has, or dairy milk, cow milk, has this protein. The name of the protein is called casein. The name of sugar in milk is called lactose.
Yeah.
So he introduced casein in subjects that had tumors, rats and, laboratory subjects.
Okay.
He increased casein and the tumors went big. He reduced it, the tumors shrunk.
Okay.
Increased it a lot more, the tumors went big. You're talking about dairy. So it's a powerful industry. When we talk about dairy, let's talk about two things. One is dairy as an industry. One is dairy as a food.
Yeah, got it.
If we separate that, it becomes very easy to understand.
Yeah.
So he did this experiment. Now imagine a guy who's been brought up in a dairy farm and that's his life. What a big shock it's for him.
Yeah.
He's the first guy who's going to not accept the whole...
Absolutely.
Right? Because it's going to directly affect him if he brings this out. And then a lot of people continued, and that was that grew into a big understanding in science, and then research papers and all that about it, and we started seeing improvement. And he had to face a lot of, I think, a big brunt for that. He was thrown out of his chair and position in the US when he brought that out. That's a different story for a different time. But so this China study showed me how meat and dairy must be avoided at all costs.
Okay.
And my learnings from that was, the doctor told me estrogen is a problem.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So it was not my estrogen. It was the estrogen that I was taking from cow's milk, from animal products.
Okay.
That was one part of the story. So I realized that I need to cut out dairy estrogen. And why is that? Because cow's milk has a lot of estrogen.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, easy. It was a matter of, life and death, because I also had 4-5 other lumps that were very small. They didn't decide to operate on that. They only operated on that one lump that had shown little abnormal
cells. It could trigger the others if
it could trigger the others.
Increased and your estrogen increased.
Estrogen increased, which is why I was told to take that medicine for 5 years. Which has a lot of any medicine does have side effects. So I didn't want to do that. And I didn't know for sure what I want to do, what I don't want to do.
Yeah.
And it's not such a clear decision I made. I just read that book, and it's such a fat book, and I didn't read much then, and I felt like, wow, I finished that book cover to cover quick, and immediately, without thinking, just changed everything. I was living by myself, so I didn't have any family to please or anything. It was all, my friends asked me, I understand you're doing this plant-based thing, but what are you going to cook? Because you cook a lot, and you cook a lot of meat. Do you even know how to cook vegetables, right? So that was my friend's biggest concern.
So just to sort of, answer, this is essentially for the listeners, it's to what you did to sort of address your cancer so that you prevent it in the future is cut off dairy.
I cut off dairy, I cut off meat products. I didn't understand the word vegan. I went straight to whole food plant-based. I didn't even know veganism. This is my story, right? I didn't know veganism was an ethical thing. I didn't know veganism was something that people did to not hurt animals.
Yeah.
I just understood that for this condition, you got to eat like this.
Yeah.
But then I started reading all these whole food plant-based books from all these doctors around. And I started doing more and more of it. What was it? It was eating more plants, eating lots of fruits, lots of vegetables, converting all my processed food into whole. Which means if there was any sugar, I stopped that and I started consuming dates, raisins, figs.
Natural
sugars. Whenever we thought of grains, if it was rice, I started eating brown rice, millet, quinoa, things like that. Ragi, which I absolutely love, right? Jawar, all of these foods. Then ate a lot of lentil, dal, chana, rajma. What I did do visibly was eat a lot more.
Okay.
I ate my way into healing.
Interesting.
I used to go for flights with 3 bags of food, my breakfast, lunch and dinner. And
so you ate good, nourishing food, full of nutrients, more.
Yes.
But doesn't that sort of weigh your body down a lot? Because it's always processing a lot of food by digesting all the time.
Not unless you're eating the right food.
Okay.
When you're eating the right kind of food,
Yeah.
you want to. This was my healing protocol.
Yeah.
And I wanted to eat. Now, suddenly a meat eater, the calories that you get in meat and refined food like white rice, sugary foods, oil, I cut out oil from my diet. But it wasn't that scary. Today I hear people get very intimidated and scared by that thought. It was extremely easy for me. Extremely easy, because it was a very simple concept. No one told me nothing. I read that book and I did. And I read many books after that and just did whatever I understood from that.
Okay.
There was no human,
Sure.
no one brought that whole thing down. So instead of oil, I started using whole fats.
Okay.
I started making cream and paste out of cashews, out of nuts and seeds. And I started eating properly. I think before I was eating when I had time.
Sure.
But now I start paying attention to food as medicine.
Okay.
Now you take your medicine at the specific time. I started taking my medicine, which is food, at that time.
Okay.
And I started doing that and started feeling this. I can't even express the level of energy. Within a week, I had chronic bronchitis. Every 6 months, I had to go in, and 3 months sometimes, I had to take in this nebulizer. Because why would that happen? Because I was in different time zones and different weather.
Yeah.
So that was my explanation to myself. The reason I have this chronic colds, coughs, fevers, all of that is because I'm not in one place,
And did the food actually help you with that?
Within 7 days, it was gone. I used to wake up with I didn't sound this clear.
Okay.
I sounded very sniffy and cold for quite a long time of my life.
Sure.
And I relate that to that amount of dairy and all that I consumed, right? So, but I understand what you're asking me, and I want to sum it up for you. It's not about one thing. And for nobody, it will be about one thing.
Sure.
It's about everything. And everything with ease. Now, if it's very difficult for you to do something, then that healing journey, you won't stick to it. Therefore, you don't see the healing.
Yeah.
So it's about what you can, instead of trying to look at one thing to do. I didn't do it all together, right? I need to be as real as I was then, right? When I say it to you now, it was as spread out as I'm sounding, because it all started with first eliminating meat, eliminating dairy. But did I fully eliminate it? No, I did try a little. Then I said no. And I remember I called my friends over and I made this meat lasagna, but I just couldn't eat it. Because I'd read this book. It's not like I took a decision from today I'm not going to eat meat. No, it wasn't like that at all.
Okay. So it takes time, but try, right?
Why did I get to that place? Because I kept educating myself on what does this food do? What is healing food? What feeds cancer? What fights cancer?
Yeah.
And the more I educated myself, I understood that animal products, processed food, refined food, foods are convenience foods, all these things feed cancer. And all illnesses. And unprocessed whole plant food from the kingdom of fruits and vegetables and whole grains and lentils and beans and legumes and nuts and seeds, which is a big variety, heals you. And then the journey of how to make this food tasty.
Great. So that brings us to the last question of this unbelievably rich conversation that we've had. And I admire your energy as well, right? It has a lot
I
to
love
do
this
with,
subject. I can talk about it for 24 hours non-stop.
I can totally understand. Too much of something that we can also avoid.
Yes. We are sort of living in the world of superfoods.
Yeah.
And personally, I feel like that's a double-edged sword. You have to understand how you are taking superfoods. Every food is a superfood.
And it's all super seriously taken these days, right?
It's about, I want to take this potion and this thing and this supplement and this. They all have a place, and please use guidances, I would say. Self-medicating, taking supplements is a very, I would say one more thing about supplements also, if you're looking at it, plant-based supplements, they're not regulated easily. You can buy them off. You can buy them off Amazon today, and you can take the wrong thing for the wrong thing. And I think talking about that is important.
That's very important.
Then you can buy spirulina, and you can buy this. I consume all of these things, and it's okay. But how much? When? Where? Do you, these are things can be dangerous, very, very dangerous. And we need to understand how to consume them. But my definition of a superfood is 2 questions. Is it is it coming from a plant? Is it whole? Which means like I've made, how refined is it? That's the question, right? And another question which we can add is it familiar to you?
Okay. Yeah. Was it in your home? Did
Was
your
it in your home?
grandparents
Have
do
you seen it in your market?
Yeah.
Your local market is selling this?
Yeah.
That's your next goal. That's the most valid one, actually. Is your local market selling this? Is this plant and is this whole?
Yeah.
That's enough. These are all superfoods. What you find in your local market, which is coming from plants and which is in its whole form.
Yeah. That's beautiful. So thanks a lot for spending time with us, Upasana. I have really learned a lot of things. And it's a lot for me also to take back. And I'm really, really certain that our listeners would have found it very, very useful.
Thank you.
So thanks for spending time on this evening. And it was a real pleasure listening to you.
Thank you so much. Really enjoyed every bit of it. Thank you.